Francesca, thanks very much for being here. It's an honor to just share this moment with you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And I feel we're two of souls of the same ocean. And it's a pity we haven't met before. But
Well,
you know, events like this that are so important bring people together that need to be together.
yeah, absolutely. I agree. For us, for me, and for the organization, it's a great honor to just bring you the Mad Blue 5 Oceans Award. You are a great advocate about the preservation of the oceans, and I would like to ask you, what does nature, and in particular the oceans, mean to you?
The oceans is an entity that connects the world. It connects us all, except maybe Switzerland and Austria, which is which ironically is where I'm from. But it is the most important connectivity of humankind, and we depend our existence on the ocean, as it produces most of the oxygen that we breathe. It creates the whole atmospheric system of waters and rivers and glaciers that are all part of the ocean system. It's a huge provider and importance of food, of communication. It's such a valuable entity that we just don't recognize. We just see this big blue surface, and very few people bother to look underneath it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And understand what its true value to us is. So to me, the ocean just became something that I recognized maybe 10 years ago. And together with Marcus Raymond, we founded TBA 21 Academy that focused entirely on the oceans. And lots of people said to us, like, why would you concentrate on just one thing? That one thing
the oceans
is everything.
Everything.
We can talk about, you know, migration, we can talk about medicine, we can talk about resources, we can talk about the way we depend on the ocean, without which we would never survive. So I think the ocean has reached a critical point, as you know very well. And unless we completely change our behavior and our belief system and our understanding of the ocean, we will have a very finite existence on this planet.
Yeah. Well, you know that Sylvia Earle used to say, no water, no life, no blue, no green. And the United Nations has recently just named this coming decade of the Decade of the Oceans. There's a lot of investment, there's a lot of people from different disciplines just taking care of and doing their part. I would like to ask you briefly about your dad. He started the movement of purpose in art, not only environment but also social. How do you get that lead, and how do you just keep on going with his legacy?
Well, at the time in the early 80s, when he started really opening up his collection to the public and traveling his exhibitions around, he was invited to the Soviet Union, which was at the time the height of the Cold War. We see now a similar military build-up happening again, which is very frightening if you were my age and you remember the Cold War and, you know, the Reagan-Brezhnev standoffs. And this was a period where the Iron Curtain was just something you never crossed. You never went to the other side, and very little was known. It was complete separation of the world as we knew it, and we're going in that same direction today. That is why this cultural diplomacy that he initiated by traveling his collection there, and not only to Moscow, but also to Novosibirsk, the capital of Siberia, and of course Leningrad at the time. And he took me with him, and we discovered how incredibly powerful the world, the art, the medium of art is in order to break down prejudices, to forge new links, to crack away at these facades of impossibility. And I think climate change is one of those systems that we contribute, all of us, to on a daily basis. And it's just a question of how far are we prepared to go to change our own behaviors. And art has this incredible power to help people shift their perception of things. Of course, we hope that art has an emotional impact on us, but we're never going to change the world just by having empathy.
Yeah.
We do need empathy, but we also need courage to shift and to change our daily life.
Yeah.
And so
to act now. Maybe that's the reason why you started Green Lights with Olaf Aureliansson, because you were mentioning about the travels and the trips with your dad, and then how that relates with what you did with the refugees. Olaf Aureliansson is just a reference. And how come, how the idea about aircraft with the lamps and the refugees, and how did you communicate that? Because the project is amazing and it really generates an impact on society. How did you get together with Olaf? And
well, we were planning a big exhibition with Olaf, and he wanted to work with the university and have workshops with the students. And we had this big wave of the first group of refugees that was arriving in Vienna on their way to Germany when Angela Merkel opened up Germany. And the first, hundreds of thousands were arriving. And we thought this was a really important moment for our country, because
yes, sure.
These people have gone through unimaginable hardship, unimaginable, and they were, many of them, very young. And they're going to live in Europe. We need to integrate them. The biggest mistake you can do with refugees and migrants is to lock them up in a camp and not have any exchange with them, because they need to understand and feel for what world they're going to enter. And so we did a huge amount of workshops. All the artists that we've ever worked with came through and did workshops with them. We taught them German so that they could integrate. We dealt with a lot of women's questions. I mean, the women arrived, they had they had not basic needs, and support, psychological support. And it was really, really tough on our staff, because we were not social workers, we're not trained as social workers. And to do a cultural project that had such an incredible commitment to people that were in such a distress, it was very, very difficult for some of the people that worked. But, this idea that you need more than one person to create one object, so each lamp was made by two, and this also generated income for them, so it was made possible to sort of help them with their...
So it was teamwork.
So it was, it was a productivity. Then it went to Venice, and we were not allowed to do the main part of it, which was the educational part and the sharing and the shared knowledge and exchange, cultural exchange, so that we could, see each other as human beings. And that is the thing that in the world today, we need to see each other more as human beings, as rather than opposites. And
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. What an experience. And speaking of experience, going back to the oceans, I am so thrilled and excited to go to the museum, to the Thyssen, next month of May, and to see Claudia's Comte proposition about the oceans, because she's doing an extraordinary job for 3 years in Jamaica, I believe. And she wants to approach, you guys through the foundation, TVA 21, you have supported her for 3 years, and she's just bringing that piece of art to Madrid. What can we expect?
Well, it all started with the curator Chus Martinez, who was the expedition leader on one of the Academy's current, which is they took a number of artists with curators on expeditions, and they went to New Zealand. And Claudia enjoyed diving very much. She loves scuba diving, and we went diving all the time, although the water in New Zealand's freezing. And we saw incredible underwater life that I've never experienced anywhere else. And that started to trigger this idea of creating a new series of works called Corals. To do that, we have there's a marine sanctuary that we developed in Jamaica, which is a separate project, but where we invite scientists, and we have a great laboratory where we study corals and the growth of corals, and we're trying to replant corals because a lot of corals in the Caribbean died in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those phenomena, as you know. I mean, corals are a major sequestration of carbon.
Yes.
They're a very important part of the oceanic life. They support all of the small, juvenile species. And it's a whole ecosystem on which we depend, and the ocean depends. And the well-being of everything in the ocean really depends on those corals. And so she started looking at the corals in the Caribbean that were a very different situation than in the Pacific, and started carving corals out of local wood. So they collected a lot of local Caribbean woods, and with her chainsaw, she's an artist with a chainsaw, started carving these and worked with local wood carvers from Jamaica to produce these incredible works. And she's going to introduce a magnificent wall painting. I think her great work is her wall paintings, and these sculptures will live inside. And so she collaborated with David Gruber, who's an incredible marine biologist, on bioluminescence. So there's a whole section of this about the bioluminescence property of the oceans, which is something that is very little known about. And we did a couple of very important discoveries on that, where traveling in the Pacific with David Gruber. And he's a professor at New York University, and he's a very well-known scholar on this particular subject. And then there's a group called Coral Morphologic in Miami, who have been, sort of trying to find new ways of regrowing corals, because the wonderful thing about corals that we are just discovering now is how adaptive they are. And how they have survived several extinctions. So what we're witnessing in the world today is the amount of corals that are being destroyed, and they're losing their incredible sad stories about the Great Barrier Reef.
It's super sad, because when they die, they lose all the color and they go like
exactly. But all the life that they support as well is disappearing. But they're finding new ways to revive themselves in deeper water or cooler waters. I mean, they're incredibly adaptive, which we didn't know before, which is, I think, a very good sign of hope for the corals.
I wouldn't miss it. I'm gonna be the first one in line.
No, of course. And we should have a conversation with you about this.
Yeah, I would love that.
We will have an artist talk.
I would love that. In Spain, we have, as you know, in the Mediterranean Sea, we don't have corals, but we have the Posidonia. And the system is
sponges. A lot
and
of
sponges also.
A lot of the works in the exhibition are also sponges.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. One more reason to go.
Yes, it's really important to have these exhibitions and invite artists to think about the oceans, because this isn't, I mean, the Academy is a very autonomous organization within TBA 21, with its headquarters in Venice. You were saying your headquarters are in Madrid, but we can have the ocean in our veins and in our hearts, which is a beautiful thing you said. But we wanted to be in Venice, because Venice has, of course, a very ancient tradition of being connected to the ocean. But also the life of the lagoon of Venice is very important, and the whole focus of the Venetians has been on the ocean for centuries, and now it's on Airbnbs. Wow. So we need to work with Venetians also to bring back the relationship with the lagoon and reviving the lagoon. So there's the Academy has projects that are it's all to do with artistic research. They focus on, they have an Ocean Uni program with fellows from all around the world. They work with the local institutions in Venice and commission exhibitions. Now they're working again with Chus Martinez and have this wonderful space called Ocean Space in Venice, which I think you should go and visit.
As soon as we can travel again, I will put it in the bucket list. TBA 21. 20 years, and the Academy and the Commission's book, The Commission's book is something that, well, thank you for bringing the book. I was about to just buy it, but it's more like 1,300 pages, speaks about the ethics and values of the foundation, but also in detail analysis, more than 100 works, is printed in sustainable paper. It looks like a lifetime project, lots of work.
It is, and what we developed as a practice is to commission works of art, to have a unique collection, but also to facilitate works by artists that probably otherwise might not see the day. Green light is not something a gallery would produce or a collector would buy. You know, these type of projects that are very, very meaningful, that speak to the urgencies of today, that connect to these organizations as well, that speak to these topics, because we are not alone. Somehow art is the glue that connects so many different disciplines as well. And so working through artistic practice and research and field work and investigation is a whole different way of working. It's very process oriented, it's long term. It's not event driven. Like the art world is sort of like event driven, like one event after the next. And so it's more process oriented. It's a very interesting way of working. And we realized after these 20 years, which we're celebrating next year, that it was time to sort of take a moment and look at what we've achieved. And I think there is a track record there that says we've been focusing on the oceans for 10 years. And I'm always grateful for any kind of recognition for that focus, because it is an important part of TBA 21. The Academy is sort of has its own life, but it is part of the world of TBA 21. And what we're doing is looking at what are we going to do the next 20 years, of course.
Exactly.
That's a big mystery at the moment.
What do you have, Francesca, what do you have ahead of you for the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years that, as you know, United Nations and the scientific community, they have said in many different ways that they are crucial to preserve life on Earth. It's not a small thing, and we just need to act now to just get together. It's time to just make a change for us, but also for the generations that are coming. That they need to have something and a good place to be. What do you have ahead of you? What's something that let me know? 3 objectives, maybe.
Well, the pandemic crisis has forced everybody to reconsider how they operate. And together with a group of people, that independent art organizations that work on environmental subjects in particular, we really have to look at our own practice, that we cannot go on creating a carbon footprint, sending, collections around, exhibitions, running from one biennale. So our own behavior within the art world is being reevaluated, first of all. Secondly, we want to focus on education and working with young people very, very much. So we have an agreement with the Complutense University to, establish a course, a teaching mechanism where some of the method that TBA 21 has initiated over the years is something we can share with students. We're looking at moving the whole foundation to Madrid, to Spain.
Nice.
Because there's such an incredible reception. Madrid is such an incredible place for us. I've never felt more at home, although it's a foreign country and I really must learn Spanish. But it's an incredibly receptive mood, because of course my father made such an incredible gesture by bringing his collection here, and the Spanish people are so grateful for that. I find it an incredible atmosphere to work here, and the possibilities are many. And the main point that I'm making is that we need to think about care. I think our whole ethos needs to focus on the culture of care, on how we treat one another, and how we heal from this moment of pandemia, but also we heal our relationship to nature. So it's, I'm looking at humanity, peace, and nature, and how these three things can come together.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because there's a movement that is One Health. It's the health of the human beings, the health of the planet, and the health of the other species, you know.
Interspecies,
So, yeah,
of course.
Interspecies. That,
interspecies relationship.
I know that you know David Attenborough, and you know, he has an incredible documentaries, all of them for sure, but there's one in particular that I love, that is A Beautiful Planet, and he states how everything has changed in a lifetime of a human being. He started when he was 20-something, now he's 90-something, and but you know, such a guy that has all the recognitions, and he really has a say. He thinks there's hope. What do you think about that?
I think there is hope. There's a huge amount of hope, which is why I'm focusing on young people, future leaders, because there's a need to give confidence that there is the possibility of change. I very much believe that some of the work that we do has measurable impact. People go, well, how does it actually impact? How do you really know that you're making a difference? And I would just answer to that, because the amount of people that approach us, and that as we are talking, you know, that we are finding a way of finding each other to combat these forces that are extremely becoming more and more aggressive. Unfortunately, there's a huge fighting back by the extraction industries to terrorize activists, you know, there's a huge campaign. There's so many activists around the world that are being targeted, environmental activists that are being targeted every day. They're being murdered in the Philippines and in Mexico and in Guatemala. People are being targeted, and this needs to stop. We have to have the possibility of having a voice that is positive, that is contributing something extremely positive, because otherwise this battle will take over and people will just step back. So it's really important to generate hope, to give young people the faith that they can make a difference, and that we can find together many creative ways of doing that.
Absolutely.
And art and culture is the way. We think that's the way we work, and this is putting art and culture to the service of environmental struggles is the primary focus of TBA 21.
Yeah, wow, fantastic. Thanks. We have to thank you for just doing what you do. We are very honored to introduce you as one of the persons who received the 5 Oceans Award, Mad Blue Awards. And we are thrilled to you moving headquarters to Madrid. That's amazing news. This is incredible.
I mean, it's not done yet. It's you know, a long, complicated process, but the heart is there, the will is there.
Wow.
And I think this is an incredible country with which one can really make a lot of changes. There's a receptiveness on both sides of the political spectrum to embrace change. And I think this is a really important, and of course the outreach to South America and Central South America is so powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and so there's a whole world, and there's so many oceans which we can contribute to, and so many, everybody seems to come through Madrid these days. And I'm just really profoundly sorry that I'm not in person. I would love to be at Europe, but the Swiss being the Swiss, I got my first vaccine. And I need to go and get my second one, and it's on the 22nd. And you know, it's non-negotiable.
No worries. We'll have 10 years of sailing these 5 oceans together.
Please.
And thank you to your dad and the legacy. And please keep doing what you do. We will be just in contact and trying to just partner up and bringing young people together, but also knowing that education is for everybody, you know, for the whole society. And what you do through art and culture is so important, because when you change is when you get emotions. And you don't get emotions with political speeches or with things that they are more bureaucracy. You get the speeches when you get, art, culture, music, entertainment, through other human beings and through other human beings' eyes when they create something. So for us, it's amazing to have you here. Thanks for coming.
But there's only one ocean, remember? There's just the one ocean.
The one ocean.
Yes.
The one ocean. Thank you, Francesca.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.